Hello, class. Welcome to Kin Major 117. I wanted to introduce myself and tell you a little bit about this course. This is really the introduction module, and you're going to move through this module week to week, covering multiple chapters of the textbook, which is right here. So I wanted to first and foremost mention that if you plan on becoming a certified personal trainer, you need to buy the textbook. There is no other workaround to this. You cannot rely on the PowerPoint slides that I will provide you. You have to spend time essentially synthesizing this textbook. This is a textbook that you will refer back to even when you're working as a personal trainer, because there's going to be invaluable resources in here. You cannot remember it all. But it's really important that you spend a few bucks and get this textbook, because without it, you cannot pass the NSCA CPT Certified Personal Trainer examination. So here it is. It's the third edition. It came out, I believe, in 2023, 22 or 23. So it's, obviously every 5 years or so the textbooks update, but it's relatively new. And it's important that you get this version. Some of you may ask, can I get the old version? Yeah, you might be able to, but things do change, and I just spend the money on it. This is the one textbook in your college career that you're going to want to keep. So if you have to save a few pennies, do it and get this textbook before the course is done, because this is an essential to passing this examination. So I'm going to work with, right now I'm going to go through and talk about how we're going to use this textbook in particular. So please look for it. And I'll put the ISBN number is in the syllabus, so obviously you can grab it that way as well. There's a lot of different places you can buy it. You can get it through our bookstore. It's going to be a little more expensive than getting it online. It's always going to be cheaper online because our bookstore has a 30% markup. It's just what they have to do. So do your best to find a cheaper version than our bookstore, although some of you might have book vouchers, and if that's the case, you're going to leverage it, and you do need to buy it through the bookstore. All right, next slide. Okay, so you're going to see here, I apologize, my little head is cutting things off. Hopefully this worked. This is my first time actually using this little box here where you can see me and I can talk. So you're going to see the textbook here, all the chapters. There's 25 chapters that we need to get through for the most part. I'm going to air quote that because I've sort of gone back and forth because when we're going to look at what is on the actual NSCA CPT examination, there's certain domains, and this is not going to really make sense right now, because there's a lot of understanding the fitness organizations, or really the fitness industry as a personal training career path. The reality is it's all managed by the private sector. So you may have taken Kin Major 100 with me before, or maybe another Kin Major 100 course. You talk about all the different career pathways, from physical therapy to athletic training to occupational therapy. All of those are licenses. They're board licenses that happen at the state level. And if you have a license in one state, you have to make sure you get it approved in another state. It's all licensing. In personal training world, there is no license. It's a certification. However, you must pass what's called an NCCA accredited personal training certification exam, and the NSCA is one of those. There are multiple vendors. But there's a lot of acronyms out there, so it gets really confusing to certainly you all right now, but also to the consumer. The consumer has no idea how the inner workings of personal training credentials work at all. Zero. They don't know. So it's an unfortunate dynamic, because I wish personal trainers were licensed. Where we would take an examination, a board certification examination, but that's just not the case right now. So in the meantime, in order to get certified, you've got to be able to understand the content in the book. And so you're going to see there's 25 chapters. We're going to do our best to probably have at least 2 chapters, sometimes 1 chapter, In the motivational interview portion, we might clump a few chapters together because I really want to have you spend time actually doing the practice of motivational interviewing in lab, and that's what's going to happen. And lab will be remote, obviously, meaning you're going to do things on your own and you're going to submit that work, and or there might be discussions about it. But I have to sort of condense 25 chapters into approximately 16 weeks. But we are going to get through a majority of these chapters. In our Kin Major 113, just to point out, I don't think I have a... If you can see my... Yeah, you can't. So let me just speak out loud here. I'm learning on the fly. If we look over here in the chapters, chapter 1 is going to be foundational anatomy. Chapter 2 is going to be the cardiorespiratory system, which is more anatomy. Chapter 3 is going to be bioenergetics, which is energy system development. Chapter 4 is going to be biomechanics, which will be the physics of human movement. And there's certain things that you have to understand. You don't have to know in great depth, but you do have to have a fundamental understanding of all these things, because this is what sets us up to understand, you know, when standing on one foot, as an example, why is that more challenging than standing on 2 feet, or standing in a split squat versus a traditional squat? And understanding, you know, why does a cable machine make things more difficult when I put it off to the side of me, the cable? So there's a whole bunch of stuff that has to be unpacked, and that's what we get through in here. Chapter 5, responses and adaptations to resistance exercise. So you need to understand and be able to explain to people, like, what happens when I do resistance training? What happens in Chapter 6 when I do aerobic endurance work? And I know most of you are like, well, I kind of know some stuff, sure, but I need you to understand the science a little bit more. And that's the whole purpose of this textbook. This is, again, why you need to have this textbook. Number 7, nutritional concepts and strategies. Chapter 8, exercise psychology in goal setting, which rolls right into Chapter 9, client consultation and health appraisal. Chapter 10, fitness evaluation, selection, administration. So how do I know what assessments we're going to be doing? For some of you I'm going to emphasize this over and over again, you need to be assessing consistently, repeatedly, because you are tracking improvement. And if you're not seeing improvement, we either have to look back at what you're prescribing as an exercise protocol, or we have to have a conversation with a client about, especially if it's fat loss, about maybe getting involved with a registered dietitian to actually come up with a meal plan that works for them. And I'm going to tell you right now, you are not the ones that are coming up with meal plans, ever. That is beyond your scope of practice as a personal trainer, and that may surprise some of you, and it does when I was doing the live class. But you are not prescribing food to any clients ever. We're going to get into scope of practice shortly. So I just wanted to throw that out there. Getting into, let's see, fitness. Okay, so yep, fitness evals is Chapter 10. Chapter 11, fitness eval protocols and norms. So we're going to go through that in our Kin Major 113. You're going to be covering, we're going to actually get into the practical, how do I apply all these, because that's what the course is about. It's a whole exercise assessment and exercise prescription based on that. So chapter Kin Major 113 goes hand in hand with 117. It's a live class. We cannot do assessments online. You cannot learn how to apply this stuff academically and never apply it. You will be a terrible trainer if you will literally be fumbling over a person for the very first time, and multiple times with client after client, if you do not do practical work, which is why we've also have the practical Kin Major 131, where you're going to actually train someone here on campus. But the assessment protocol, you need to learn how to do body fat, blood pressure, step testing, aerobic testing, muscular capacity testing, muscular endurance testing, strength testing, 1 rep max testing, sub-maximal testing. You need to know how to do all that stuff, how to properly spot, how to properly structure all this stuff. You're going to learn about it academically here, but then there's a whole different environment once you apply that. So that's where some of our other coursework, the reason why we're even able to do this online is because I'm going to do the practical stuff in some of these other courses, and including our 115, I'm blanking on the names, but the strength training course as well. We're going to get into the gym, and we're going to do all the real work of understanding how to apply this stuff. Okay, so moving on. Chapter 12 is going to be flexibility warm-up protocol, warm-up concepts, body weight and stability ball exercise training. Chapter 13, resistance exercise training technique. 14, cardiovascular exercise technique. We're on the right side now. Chapter 15, resistance training program design. So this is where we get into how do you design an exercise program. We're actually going to get into that because it is actually more academic. In this class in particular, you're going to actually design your own resistance training program based on a client, a mock client that I'm giving you. And then we get into aerobic training program design. Chapter 17 includes plyometrics, speed training program design techniques. Chapter 18, client. Now we're going to get into all special populations. So chapter 18 through really 22 is all special populations. And that's the reality is most of the people you're going to meet in training have something going on that you have to actually accommodate for, including getting medical clearance prior to being able to work with them. So let's see, we've got 18 clients who are pre-adolescent, older, or pregnant. 19 is going to cover clients with nutritional and metabolic concerns. 20 is clients with cardiovascular or respiratory conditions. 21 is clients with orthopedic injury and rehab concerns. 22 will be clients with spinal cord injury, multiple sclerosis, epilepsy, and cerebral palsy. Now, I know you're saying that, what, am I going to be training these people? Very rarely, to be perfectly transparent. Most of these folks are going to be working with allied healthcare professionals, occupational therapists trying to return to meaningful quality of life, meaningful occupational therapists work with folks who have significant trauma, trying to get them to restore meaningful occupations. And that doesn't mean work. That could be like, I want to dance with my wife, or I want to dance with my husband, something like that, okay? So we're going to talk about it. The reality in the gym is you're not going to really deal with much of this, so it is what it is. So don't worry too much. This isn't going to be thrown on your plate and all of a sudden you're dealing with, all of these clients that have significant medical pathology. Chapter 23, resistance training for clients who are athletes. 24, facility and equipment layout and maintenance. 25, professional, legal, and ethical responsibilities for the personal trainer. And then there's the appendix, which is the business of personal training. So that's a lot. I know many of you are probably excited by this, but let's move on to the next thing here. I'm going to repeat, buy the textbook. You need to purchase this if you're serious about becoming a certified personal trainer. No ifs, ands, or buts. So please save your money. It's okay if you can't get it right away, but you really should be reading the chapters, for every single quiz that I'm going to be giving you. The text is your personal training, quote unquote, desk reference. A physician has a desk reference where they pull a book down, so that I'm not expecting you to memorize everything on training a special population client, but you need to be able to reference this material when you get a client who's pregnant. You're going to be like, ooh, what do? I can't remember. Pull the book down. That's why you have it. And you'll pull it down as need be once you're practicing. And I give you that example of pregnancy. I will not be covering everything in this textbook. You'll see why in a few slides. And I've sort of gone back and forth. You might have everything this time, but we're going to cover other things, or we're going to try and prioritize certain things in this class. But I think I'm changing my mind on the fly here. I think we're covering it from top to bottom. But the focus for the test, to pass the test, is not every single little thing in this in this textbook. All right? So check the syllabus for the ISBN number, and obviously there's going to be text slides, but you really need the textbook. Don't just rely on the slides if you seriously want to pass the NSCA CPT Certified Personal Trainer examination. So let's look at that next. All right, so let's look at the NSCA CPT examination content. So I'm going to read this, and here we go. The NSCA Certified Personal Trainer exam is comprised of 140 scored and 15 non-scored questions, multiple choice questions that test candidates' knowledge, skills, and ability in the following 4 domains: client consultation and assessment, and you're going to look on the left-hand side there in that box. program planning, techniques of exercise, safety, emergency procedures, and legal issues, and non-scored questions. So you can see the percentage and then the questions to the right. So the majority of it is going to really be on programming, with the second being the techniques of exercise. And it's a total of 155 questions, which I believe is 2.5 hours in total length is all you have to take the examination, if I recall correctly. We'll get into that once we get closer. I do have that information. I'm just pulling it out of my brain, though, so I apologize. I think it's 2.5 hours. But you're going to see 15 non-scored questions. So they're always testing 15 questions to see if these are future questions. You have to get a 70% or higher. So basically, do the math on that. 100 and really it's 140 questions. You have to get a 70%. So if we're talking, let's do the math real quick. 140 times 0.7. But you have to get 98 questions right out of those 140 to get that 70%. So you gotta know your stuff. You gotta know the textbook, and that's part of it. Now there's also 25 to 35 videos and or images that assess competencies across multiple domains. So there's going to be videos of people performing exercises. You need to be able to identify, and they're going to ask you what is wrong or what is this person doing incorrectly. You need to be able to identify that. So we'll do our best. We do have some videos, but you also have to. In our strength training class, our kin major, I think it's 115, it's going to be the exercise techniques of strength training. We're going to cover a lot of that as well. And then in our 113, we're going to be testing, as I said before, we're going to be doing all of the testing live. So we have two other classes that are really going to support this course. It doesn't mean that you can't take the exam after this class. I actually would encourage it, but if you've never lifted weights, you might be at a little bit of a disadvantage because some of this might seem foreign when it gets to some of the videos. So I know over the years I've had some students that haven't done a lot of, let's say, real resistance training in a weight room with the heavy weights. I'm not talking about the light little dumbbells, doing lots of reps. We're talking about lifting weights, because that's really how we make the best change in a body. Especially from a fat loss perspective, we have to be lifting weights seriously. Okay, so in 2022, you're going to see the pass rate was 66%. So, people don't pass. It's not an easy exam. But here's the thing. It's actually a multiple choice test with only 3 answers. So there is a little bit of ease in that, right? You don't have to figure out four different answers. There we go. You have to just know what is the question, what is the right question out of 3. That's a little bit of an advantage. So that's worth mentioning, right? There's a hyperlink here. You can connect. You can connect on either of these hyperlinks to get more detailed information. Please, by all means, peruse that, especially when you create, which is going to be part of our first lab. You're going to create your what am I trying to say? Your NSCA CPT account. Reality is we're going to focus attention a little bit more on these following chapters. I want to prioritize these because these are going to help you pass the exam. I'm still going to give you the other chapters, but we're going to spend a little bit more time on these chapters because these tend to be the ones that that need to be prioritized. So there is that. All right. So how are we going to use this course to prepare you? I want you to, every module, I want you to read the chapter first, taking time to understand the concepts. You have to read the textbook. I am adamant about this because students taking this course, and some of you might be just taking it for your own knowledge, that's fine. But if you are serious about passing this certification examination and becoming a certified personal trainer, you need to buy the textbook and read the chapters probably multiple times. This is a college course. I am expecting that you're reading the textbook. Don't BS it. Spend time in the textbook. It is dry. It is boring. Hey, but sorry, that's the way it goes. You need to get the textbook, read the chapter multiple times, and understand the content in there. You're then going to watch my video lecture I'm going to do a high-level overview lecture. You're then going to take a module quiz. The quizzes can be taken numerous times. If you don't get 100% on the quiz, go back and review the content you missed and find the answers in the text and retake the quiz, excuse me. So I am trying to set you up for success here by forcing your hand into learning the material. You have to meet me halfway. That's the bottom line. You've got to meet me halfway, and you've got to do your part if you're serious about getting certified. All right, you're going to then complete the lab activity. Note, in a fully asynchronous, no live lecture lab, no, this is fully asynchronous. Sorry, let me rephrase this. There is no live lecture or labs. So labs will be limited and up to you to perform with family members or friends. You need to commit to finding a real person to do this. I'm missing an O there, sorry. Because if you can't with a person you know, how will you ever be comfortable? If you can't do the stuff that I'm going to have you do with a person you know, how will you ever be comfortable with a person you don't know in a prospective personal training client that you're trying to sell personal training to? So you better have someone at home. You better find a friend. You better have, because we're going to be spending time, especially doing the motivational interview portion. I need you to get comfortable with what we're going to be doing with a real person. Okay, there's a final exam, and it'll be on all the chapters we've covered in our modules, similar to how the NSCA CPT exam is structured. There's also going to be a program design assignment that I mentioned earlier. So you've got quizzes, program design assignment, and a final exam. The final exam is going to be set up in an environment that's just like the testing center, where you get essentially 3 hours to take the test. I believe it's 3 hours, if I recall correctly. If not, you will see this with the final exam. It is set up. You literally have to get 155. You've got basically, I think a minute. I did this in about a minute and a half. Maybe it's 2.5 hours. I apologize. But you've got basically a minute and a half for each question. If you don't know the answer, you move on. Because the test is timed. It's proctored. There are no notes. You have to use scratch paper to figure out mathematics. So if there's going to be some math in there, some formulas, and if I'm scaring you and you don't want to do this, hey, be my guest. You can drop the class. But if you want to pass, get certified, and mind you, the NSCA is one of the most reputable certification agencies in the country. The reason why we picked it, or I picked it personally, is A, I'm certified with their CSCS, their NSCA CPT, so I've already done this work just like you, and their TSAC-F, which is the Tactical Strength and Conditioning Facilitator. The CSCS is the Certified Strength and Conditioning Specialist, which is 2 exams. You need that to be a strength coach if that's your intention, but at this point you also have to have a bachelor's degree to sit for that CSCS. So the NSCA CPT, the National Strength and Conditioning Association, publishes their own research. The Journal of Strength Conditioning Research, which is a peer-reviewed journal, that when you're a member, and you're all going to have to be members because that's going to get you the steepest discount on your certification examination, but you can get a student discount. So this is where the benefit of being a student is. You get a student discount on the membership, and then you get a discount on taking the exam. But the exam essentially is going to be like $300 and something. So you got to take this seriously, and there's no workaround this. This is what you have to do. The reason why we picked the NSCA, or I picked the NSCA, and we've done ACE in the past, and I did ACSM at one point, but NSCA is the cheapest. It renews every 3 years for $65 instead of every 2 years, and the ACE exam, which is more expensive to take the exam, and then it only renews every 2 years, and it costs $149 to recert every 2 years. So over the long haul, this will be the least expensive certification for you, and it's a nonprofit, and they publish their own research. So there's a lot of value to this organization. Some of you are going to like, why don't we do NASM? NASM is a for-profit company. That is it. They are in it to make money. NSCA certainly wants to make money, but they're also publish their own research. They're invested in the process. from an academic perspective, a heck of a lot better than NASM is. And frankly, because they publish their own research, they are just doing more of the work that we need done in the field. And they're not trying to, conquer the world, which is really NASM's. Unfortunately, NASM's model. I have a bias. I'm going to tell you, I have a bias for nonprofits that publish their own research every single time. So ACSM and the NSCA are the only two that publish their own research in peer-reviewed journals, which is how we get our research and how we know what kind of exercises to prescribe based on high quality research. So there you have it. All right, I'm gonna stop here. Let's continue moving on to the next module. To the next section, and I will see you soon. I hope it didn't come across as too mean, but I'm really passionate about this work. I'm excited you're wanting to take it. But I also want you to take it very seriously, because if you tell someone you learned personal training from me and you didn't take it seriously, I'm going to be really mad. All right. So I will see you shortly.